Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. I'm going to just leave a little update here. I just recently recorded, this episode on tiny houses, which will be episode 21. And I thought, you know what? Deck and I went to see a really cool tiny house builder in Mississauga, Ontario. And I'm going to put the link in below because I thought, someone might be interested. And I'm trying to really put as many resources as I can in the show notes. So I went and looked up the company. They're called Little Creek Homes. And yeah, I got a little bit of a shock. This has just taken me a while to work through. That feeling of when you realize that you just dodged a huge bullet? Well, that's what happened because this Little Creek Homes does not exist anymore. I go to their website. There's nothing there except a landing page. I go to their Instagram, not much there. Like it's blank. I go to the YouTube. It's dead. They had tons of social media, tons. So back in 2022, I was really looking at getting a custom tiny house built. Or in this case, we were thinking of putting two custom tiny houses together, like two units. They were 11 feet wide by 40 feet. So they fit on like trailers and you can move them to wherever. My friend who's a real estate agent told me about this company, Little Creek Homes. So we went to his studio, his workshop, his manufacturing plant in Mississauga, and Deck and I toured this warehouse, studio, whatever you call it, and saw these, he calls them luxury mini homes. I'm just going to call them tiny houses, but they were being built. We saw them, we walked through, and we were seriously thinking about getting a bit of land and getting two of these guys and putting them together and like having them built. And we were so excited. So we're going through them and they were so cool. You could have like a rooftop deck. They looked beautifully done. And he didn't have a lot on his website, but it was really, like appealing. They were simple. They could be moved around. It wouldn't be necessarily so easy, but they could. They weren't those ones that are on wheels that you see, like that just tootle around on wheels. There wasn't that. You still had to put a foundation in somewhere. And actually, this is where we started to decide not to do a tiny home because, oh my God, there's so much to this story. The guy's being charged with 9 counts of fraud. So I'm going to get back to that in a second. But the point about tiny homes is that it's not as cheap as it sounds. Like you can think that the units are only whatever, $150,000, which for a house is like, I'm in Canada right now. It's insane. Not to say it's not a lot of money, but compared to what houses are going for. But you have to get a foundation. You potentially have to get your plumbing and the water put in, the sewage systems if it's not already existing. There's the transportation of the houses to the land that that you are on. And then you have to buy the land unless you're lucky enough to have someone who owns a piece of land and you can have a parcel of it. So we were really thinking about this and we love the idea of building from scratch and having something small on a piece of land. However, we hadn't found a piece of land. I just kind of started looking. It seemed pretty complicated. And I didn't have a lot of bandwidth for making all those decisions. And Declan was really burnt out. Actually, now I'm remembering this was a big factor. He was really burnt out with the job he was doing at the time. This is 2022. So the idea of him making decisions and having to also probably get really involved in this was just not on the table. It just seemed to be too much work. But we did love these homes. We got really excited. You know that feeling you get when you go somewhere and it's just like new. There's like the possibility of newness and a change. And I think we were really craving that. So we did end up kind of moving outside the city for a little bit that summer. And that's when we saw the Hobbit house. But we were like just getting all excited. And this owner put on a great dog and pony show. He's showing us everything, like the modern fixtures going in, how big they were. They were way bigger than you think. Like 11 feet is actually pretty wide. And there were construction crew making these houses. Now, I do remember leaving and Declan saying the crew looked miserable. Now, Deck works in construction. He's a construction foreman and a site supervisor. He works with the crews all the time and from all over the place. And he always says that if the crew is miserable, it's a huge red flag and something's going on. So he said and thought the crew was miserable. We looked at plans. We looked at architectural drawings. He did the whole thing. Like, you can get our architect and he'll custom make this for you and this for you. And like, he's showing us blueprints and it all seemed very real. And I'm all about making decisions with your gut. And I talk about that all the time. I feel like we need to get back into that feeling of trusting ourselves. However, please, the due diligence. And I feel like I dodged a bullet because I actually don't know how much due diligence I would have done, because the fact that I was seeing these tiny homes being built on the premises, I don't know if I would have actually like tried to see more of them. And what actually, in one of the articles I read when I was going down this whole rabbit hole of what this Little Creek Homes did, is one couple was really insisting that they go and tour some houses. They had already put a deposit down and he was stalling and stalling and stalling. And they never saw them. So they actually pulled the deposit because they're like, well, if I can't go walk through one, I'm not going to give you my money, which makes a lot of sense, right? But it's easy to get caught up in the whole newness, the whole change, the whole, oh my gosh, this is going to be custom. This is, pretty affordable. So we didn't go through with it. We pulled out. It just seemed like too much of a stress, so many decision-making pieces. And we just bailed on the whole concept. But we were really close. Like, I think you needed $10,000 to kind of secure your spot. And here's a couple things now. And I'm going to get to all the fraud stuff in a section. I feel like this is turning into Dateline NBC. Oh, no, like Fifth Estate or something, or Passion Eye, or I don't know. It's not a murder show, but we're definitely going into like scams here. So one of the things was that he was telling us that he had an order for 45 or something like that, a huge number. It was either 24, 28, 45 tiny homes to be built on a property in Kingston as part of a hotel. So he's like, you should get your order in like before that. So there was a bit of pressure, right? And the other thing that was a little bit of a red flag looking back is that he said he started the whole business making a tiny house for his daughter. And on the website, you could see the plans, like the modeling, the rendering of the house. And this is called, I don't know what it was called, but let's say it was called the Haley unit. But there was no actual photos of like Haley living in the tiny home. Here's Haley on her little couch. Here's Haley in her kitchen. So there was no lifestyle pictures. And he said, oh yeah, well, she actually ended up selling it at some point. And I just remember thinking that was a little bit weird because I don't know if you would necessarily like sell your first tiny home. I don't know, just something just struck a chord in my gut. But anyway, bottom line is we didn't work with him. However, we got close, and apparently most of those images, I think all of them on his website, are fake. So I went down this rabbit hole. I'm Googling this company. He has now 9 counts of fraud over $5,000. One couple spent $154,286. That is so much money. And they never got a house. Apparently not one tiny house was ever made or ever delivered or ever fulfilled. Not one. So this one young couple in particular was online doing a bunch of interviews. I think I read about them in the Globe and Mail. And they saved up. This was their life savings. They took loans out. They have no house to show for it. They have nothing. And he started ghosting them. I believe it was June or July of 2022. Now, when Deck and I went to visit this place, his manufacturing place, it was February 2022. So this is just a few months after that he's now being chased down for his product, his house that hasn't been finished. There was something to do with permits, not getting them done. And he has taken off. He did get charged. I don't know what's happening now because it hasn't been updated in the last few months since it's been about 6 months since I've seen any recent update in the news. But he has taken a total of $800,000 from people who wanted tiny homes, and not one person got a tiny home. Not one person got anything. I think one person got $25,000 back from their $60,000, but that leaves $35,000. Like, I just couldn't believe this story. And it's that feeling of like something feeling so real and you're excited about it and you have belief in it. And then the rug gets taken out. And just thank goodness it wasn't good timing for us. And we decided not to go forward with it. And, our ducks weren't in a row and the stars were not aligning. I'm actually really grateful this just happened because I do need those check-ins sometimes to not just leap. I can actually take a little bit of risk. I'm not a full-on risk taker, but I will take risks. I will take leaps if my gut is saying yes. And it's important to discern between your gut saying yes, and this is like totally right, and just pure excitement and pure adrenaline and that, desperate need for change, especially even if you relate it to a job, career decision. It's like how many times do we ignore those red flags in the interview because we're so excited to leave our old job and just like to get into something new? And looking back, you're like, yeah, that wasn't so good, or that was a little bit off. And looking back at this experience of looking at these little mini homes, there was a few red flags. I'm actually looking at his business card right now. I just found it in my binder. I'm so old school. I keep real business cards. The graphic designer in me, right? I can't let go. And I'm looking at the back of the card. And it's a full like model rendering of one of his tiny homes, which I now know is a total fake. There was no tiny home. He didn't fulfill one order. And that happened. And I feel awful for all of these people that lost some money, especially this one couple. They look like they're maybe 30 years old, just trying to get a home, which is a dream for so many people. They were going to put it on, I think, her mother's property. And what do you do after that? That's not a struggle. That's a whole disaster. That's beyond a struggle. That's a whole catastrophe. I don't know how you come back from that. So I'm, sending compassion to all of these people. And I can't help but be selfishly grateful that I didn't get involved in this story. And let's just take this as a lesson to do our due diligence with everything. And just do the research. Even if you seem like you're being, uptight, controlling, all of that, do it because you definitely don't want to be in a position where you're losing out financially because of that, desire to just move forward. So I thought I would share that little update. And I'm not adding their website. Actually, I can add the website just so that to avoid this builder. His name is Philip Bradley. And if anyone wants to tell me a story about how they thought they were trusting their gut and then things didn't go well and it turned upside down and you've learned from the experience, I would love to hear that story. So please reach out to me. I feel like that's an important thing to talk about on this podcast. Okay, guys, till next time. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.